Our last speaker for the evening, maybe as much as anyone in this town, needs no introduction. If your eyes are open and you've been looking around, somewhere you have run into Tom Ashenbrenner. Tom grew up in Twin, and I think his words were, attended the University of Oregon until they decided he needed to be somewhere else, with a diploma, I understand. And he's been tied to his dad's business and his business in downtown Twin Falls for more years than a lot of us, except for Tony Mann, have been alive. That's right. And a lot of the things that you see downtown between the Oktoberfest and the First Fridays that are down there, Tom's been in the middle of all of that, and he's a big part of what brings kind of life and energy to downtown. And on a more personal note, given that this is a Rotary project, at some point in the past, Tom was actually the president of our esteemed organization. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tom Ashenbrenner.
Chris, thank you. So, how about this night, huh? Yeah. This is cool. I've been excited about this ever since they brought it up. I just think our community is ripe for the chance to get together and share stories and be a community, particularly in Old Town, in one of my favorite buildings ever, anywhere. This is a cool building. Chairman Adair, thanks for your risk to put this together. I mean, that's what it took. Let's leave our good, solid, profitable restaurant business in Kimberly and come take an ancient 1910 building and spend a fortune and see if we can't make it work. Which is a big deal. And that's really what our forefathers in this community did as well. So I know we've been here a while. I'm going to try to hurry through my presentation. I'm going to focus on, see if I can weave a story and take us through three different avenues. What time is it? I'm going to look to. Okay. The historical, I look at historical places. I'll look at some stories of historical and mostly hysterical people, like Tony. Tony, you qualify for both of those. And then a hell of a future. Try to wrap it up with the future, because we're in a bright spot in this community right now. So, without getting sidetracked, if I get sidetracked, just throw something at me. The front row is taken up by St. Luke's. St. Luke's administrative staff, they run the hospital, largest business in town, and they know me well because I got to hang around with them for a number of years. And they will throw things at me, so I appreciate that. Everything that's gone on so far wraps up in what I'm going to try to tie up. And improv, the historical days of improv, that was really cool. You're hilarious anyway. Not just looking, but you're funny all the time. And thanks for putting this, for all your work, and everyone else from Rotary. That's another big hand. These guys do a hell of a job. Not just to make money and give it away, but to make events that are fun and important to us. So from that to phenomenal fundraising and bicycle mania, bicycle torture maybe? Probably not. The very touching personal story of travail and triumph, the hilarity of Tony's work and stories, and I'm interested in the spring up the butt story, but I won't go into that now. Bring that up later, Tony. And Leon, your talk was fascinating. All completely different, but all trying to give us a chance to be together and be a community and listen and share. That's what this is all about. So, let's start with historical places. I get to work in the oldest commercial building in town, built in 1904, and there's the eyewear boutique on Shoshone that's a few months older that was a house. So we counted it as a house, not a commercial building, but we're pretty close to being tied. And it's a real honor to be in a building that old. If you're ever in Rudy's, ask any of us, we'll take you down and show you the basement, which has a lava rock floor. It's got some lava rock walls too, but they couldn't get rid of the floor, so they just kind of built around it. And we just put in a wine cellar. We're just kind of finishing a wine cellar, so we can store special wines, let them age a little bit. It's just neat to walk around on lava rock that still has lichen on it. It's an old building, and it feels good to be in an old building. The origin of the business and buildings now, two different things, was started by L.E. Saladay, Twin Falls Hardware, in 1904, in a place that's now where the drive-thrus are at Wells Fargo, down on Main Shoshone. He had that hardware store, and in those days, when it first started in 1904, there was 3 hardware stores, and hardly any other buildings, but you needed a lot of hardware. There were some drugstores too, you needed some drugs. You needed some hardware, and I think both the drugstore and the hardware sold whiskey. So, they had that covered, which says why there was quite a few of those. The store was moved to across the street from where we are now on Main Avenue North, I think in a building where maybe Slice is, and was eventually sold to Co. Price, who then moved the store across to our current location in our building. And my father joined him after World War II, 1946, and almost immediately bought him out, or began to buy him out. And it's been in our family since then. World War II had a significant impact on the development of Magic Valley and Twin Falls. Co. Price lost 2 sons in the war. My father was fortunate enough, he had a master's in education from the University of Idaho. And when he got into the Air Force, when he got into the Air Force, he got to be a fighter pilot instructor instead of a bomber in Germany. And very likely that saved his life, and otherwise I wouldn't be here maybe boring you, but telling you stories. He came back and joined Co. Price. Co. immediately took off. He was still in mourning and didn't really come back very often, and that facilitated the change. But that same little story went on all up and down Main Street, all over the United States, all over the world. And we don't want to forget that when we look at history, because it impacts the people and the places that resulted from that great war. So that's the business. I joined it. Eventually we got tired of fixing people's weed eaters and snow blowers and telling them that their god dang lawnmower didn't work because they put the gas where the oil was supposed to go and the oil where the gas was supposed to go. And of course my favorite story is the attorney who then became a judge, who was always complaining about the lawnmower that didn't cut or shit, his words. And finally he just had it. So I worked at working. So did you sharpen your blade recently? He goes, yeah, I just sharpened it. It still won't cut. So you put it on upside down. Don't tell that to a judge. And if you do, don't ever try to appear in front of him. Anyway, so we went to a cookie store and it's great, and that's not part of the story. The people are what's part of the story. It might have been Birdie, but no, it wasn't. And no, I can't tell you who it is. The fascinating people are what really made it. The buildings remind us of it. The history reminds us of the power and the energy and the spirit that we need to have and that we do have. This is the most amazing bunch of people in Southern Idaho ever. Can you imagine coming off the mule, the horse, the train, and go, God, this would be a perfect place to get a bunch of mules and dig all this sagebrush and rock out and build some canals and then build a dam. What the hell? Let's do it. What do you think? And it was like Frank Buell and just reading this in this little brochure. I got Murtaugh, I can't remember his name. Mark Murtaugh, Gooding. What was Gooding's name?
Frank Gooding.
Oh yeah, Frank Gooding. And then Wendell. I'm pretty sure that Wendell, remember my brother Darrell, my other brother Darrell? I'm pretty sure Wendell's name was Wendell. Wendell. Which is why it's way over there. It's not really a hub anymore. So, those guys had to be crazy. but they also had the fortitude to stick it out and make this place go. And we went through a cycle. We went through a cycle after World War II. And then we went through a cycle when downtown was revitalized the first time in the late 1960s. And we had big-time stores down there, like JCPenney's and Sears, and the Bon Marché, and Idaho Department Store, and Sterling Jewelry, and Hudson Shoes.
Paris.
Yeah, we're getting to Paris. The Paris are over. Yeah, we'll get to those. Yeah. So we'll get to those two.
City drug.
What was that?
City drug.
Oh, City Drug. And Woolworths.
Yes.
Woolworths, which always smelled like popcorn and bubblegum rolled around on the bottom of a leather-soled shoe. Remember that smell? It was there.
And the lunch counter.
That little lunch counter. You don't look near that old, man.
The one Price Harbor.
Yeah, Bryce Harbor and Pringles. So, the revitalization was led by leaders who took risk. It's like these guys here in this building. Joe Seelig, Rudy Ashenbrenner, Earl Faulkner, John Roper. There were a number of others, Summerfield Jewelry. The leader was Boy Hudson Shoes. That's what my dad told me. My dad had an inside scoop. You know, when you're with all these guys all the time, some stories are truer than others, let's put it that way. He had tremendous respect for Boy Hudson. And the urban renewal developer had a lot to do with that as well. So they did the revitalization. They put a lot of their own money into it. It went 3 blocks, and it was a huge success, and things changed and rolled around. Now we're rolling around again, and we have the chance to do this again with a new batch of leaders, right? A new city council, a tremendously talented city manager, and it's going to be great. But it's only going to be great if we have the people and the energy and the passion to drive it with events. So that takes me back one more step to the hysterical humans, because some of these guys are just so funny. So I'm going to take just a minute to tell you about a couple inside stories of when I came back from college that I got to experience. When I first came back from the University of Oregon, and the story was, it was the University of Idaho that decided I'd been there long enough after 2 years and said I should go out of state. For good reason. I won't tell you those stories. But I came back from the University of Oregon, and my dad took me to coffee with some of his cronies over at Specs Cafe, and they sat me down very sternly and they said, okay, the answer is no. Now what's the question? I don't have a question for you geezers. They were pretty sure that I was from the University of Oregon, so I was a liberal. I had no idea that the University of Oregon was liberal, just because we could go out on the cow pies and pick our own psilocybin mushrooms and be happy for about 6 straight hours. I didn't mean liberal. It just meant opportunity. Opportunistic is what I thought that was. And they could never really prove you had it anyway when they did the test. So that's what I came back from, a little bit different view, and I was just amazed at these guys. So Earl Faulkner and John Roper, and I got involved in the downtowners groups, and they'd have the meetings, and Earl would be there early, and he would be confirming this first, energetic. He had maybe a spring in his butt, Tony. He was moving, and he was jumping, and he had ideas, and they were usually pretty good. But if you didn't go along with him, he didn't take it all that well, and sometimes he'd grab his ball bag and go home. And John Roper was always 30 minutes late. Oftentimes, John would be coming in smiling, oh, I'm late again, just as Earl was marching out. Those two were like this frequently. I just thought, this is fantastic theater. This is better than college. Those two were two of the most capable, energetic, creative business people, retailers, the state of Idaho has ever seen. The reputation that both those stores had, maybe particularly the Paris, were astounding. And I appreciate that, but I still love the stores. So Earl would torture me to do little projects for downtown, and I was over there once. I'll never forget this. This is not an exaggeration. And I'll back up just for a second. Yogi Berra is one of my favorite philosophers and wise men. You know, he said a lot of good stuff like, if you come to a fork in the road, take it, or What time? When someone asked him what time it was, he said, "You mean now?" But the best one was, "I really didn't say everything I said." Oh, somebody accused me of this later. Well, I really didn't say everything I said. But this was a true story. So there was a lady in there. I thought she looked a little forlorn, but Earl was just happy she was in there because they were going to sell her something. And he had that great voice. "Mabel, Mabel, it's good to see you. You look beautiful as ever. How are you? How are you?" Not very good, Earl. "Oh, great. No, my husband just passed away unexpectedly 2 days ago, and I'm looking for a dress for the funeral." "Oh, that's great. I'm so happy to see you. Glad to see you. Glad everything's going well." He just missed it. And I was going, "Holy smokes." So I kind of hugged the lady. I knew her, and she understood. But sometimes when you have that much energy, it's hard to sort of channel, right? If there's one person that lit up Twin Falls downtown shopping, it was Earl Faulkner. And he did more for CSI than most of us will probably ever know beyond the Harris Center and the Faulkner Planetarium. So I say that with the utmost respect, but the man was funny. Especially when he didn't know he was. John Roper, on the other hand, was the complete polar opposite. He was, he had a degree from Northwestern University, extremely intelligent, very serious, pretty dang frugal.
No personality.
Oh yeah, he had a great personality. He was just a little bit different. So this takes me on a little side trip. One time, and I don't know why, but when I was in Rotary and I was 29, they decided to make me president. Because I told some stories that were somewhat humorous and because no one else wanted to be president. So what the hell? I got to go to 2 international Rotary conferences, which was great fun. The only thing weirder that eventually, a couple of years later, they made Todd Glass president just because he told the shortest grace that was ever told. So anyway, I was the exchequer during that time and thought, I have a great deal for John Roper because he would nod off a little bit and his head would come down and it would sometimes hit in the mashed potatoes, and they had this great deal in Rotary of blue jello.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, I can help him, I really can. Plus I can make it funny. So I made a little plexiglass chin deal and it strapped over and around your head. And it, when he nodded off, it would. So I thought it was a brilliant idea. So as an exchequer, instead of finding him, I gave him credit and then presented him with this John Roper honorary chin support. I called it the snooze support. Well, there's 2 people in that 150 out of the 150 that weren't laughing, and John was the first one, I was the second one after looking at his face. He didn't think that was all that funny. And I did keep the blue jello out of his nostrils, which wasn't a pretty sight. He was another spectacular businessman. Did great things for the community, Roper Auditorium. The point is, we've been blessed in this community more than most with extremely talented people. Marvelous people. My father always said the best people in the world live in Twin Falls. I said, I find that could be argumentative, Dad. He goes, no. Look around. Do you know any other towns that have better people? I said, well, that's a good point, I know. But he meant it. And that was his passion. So just briefly about him. He was one of 13 kids, grew up on a farm in Nampa. His parents immigrated from Germany. In Eisenstein, played football for the University of Idaho, got a master's degree in education, went into the Air Force, the Army Air Corps, came back and bought into this business because my mother was from here, and there was no future on the farm. But he loved people, and he loved, with a passion, people, and he would leave one side of the street. He was walking down and talking to the mayor, and across the street, after excusing himself, to talk to the homeless people. Because he liked them just as well, maybe better. He said, oh, I've heard what the mayor had to say. So why did you do that? Well, he needed somebody to talk to. George Jackson. Who remembers in this town George Jackson? I'm almost done. George Jackson was a character. He got accused of some unusual crimes. I don't know if we're true or not, but it doesn't really matter. He was He had some mental issues, but he was sweet to the core. And he would come in our store every day. And usually he'd come in to buy a padlock because he lost the key. It didn't take me long, I was an entrepreneur, to find a deal where I could buy padlocks quite a bit cheaper if they didn't come with the key. Well, if he's going to lose the key anyway, I just saw him when it didn't have a key. It simplified the process. That's what happens downtowns all across. That's what really happened in our town. He's just one of the examples. We would let him sleep underneath the fire escape in the back. We would take him places. I don't know, we had him for Thanksgiving dinner, but we had some of the others in that realm. And I'm trying to paint a picture of spectacular people in this marvelous place. And now we've got a chance to do something I think is extraordinary, and that's to get our kids to come back here. The advent of economic development that is sustainable, that was spawned by sound decisions to build up our infrastructure and water and sewer and roads and schools, has allowed Giovanni to do even more than sponsor your bike trip, which is pretty damn cool, and Glanbia's expansion, and St. Luke's, which is often overlooked, tremendous expansion and contribution to the community as an outgrowth of Magic Valley Regional Medical Center, and Cliff Bar, which I think will really twist us. They're going to have a completely different look of community. And of course, CSI, the best thing that we've got going. Thank you, Dr. Fox. But what we can do now is look to the future and take the energy and the passion and the history that we've got and build a life that our kids want to come back to.
Here, here.
Right back here in the corner of the Awesome. One of the best businesses that we have is family owned and run in Twin Falls. And they're both extremely intelligent and they're a lot smarter than their dad.
You might argue with
The McBrides have come back. JJ and Marjorie. Jacob and Risa Florence. And lots of others. There is not a better place to live in the world right now than Twin Falls, Idaho. Especially if you like 3 months of 40-mile-an-hour wind. So what our challenge is now is to keep this going, to have solid, true, sustainable places for our kids to come and raise a family. What are the 5 biggest words for the baby boomers? The biggest concern, the biggest words for the baby boomers. Well, I didn't know more than anything. The generation is kind of geezering on, tottering into oblivion. 5 words. It could be a lot of them. Tony can come up with some, we won't let him repeat them.
Quality place.
Where are my teeth?
I knew you were going to come with that. Where are my teeth? Quality place. Where do your grandkids live? I mean, I like my kids, they're fine, but God,
Yeah.
grandkids. We got the chance. We didn't have this chance. We talked about this 15, 20 years ago. They'd have to go to Wendell. We don't want to go to Wendell. Oh, maybe we do. We got the chance. And it's not really us anymore, it's you. Winnie, where are you?
Winnie, have you got a pajama on?
Okay. It's Winnie. It's your age group. You have the power. We're sliding sideways. We think we're funny, but we really aren't. You've got the power. What we can do is continue this revitalization, particularly in downtown, to build a sense of place. That's the catchword. I don't care if you call it that or not, but it's the place that holds the spirit that lets us come together and do this. So I wanted to end with a video that has a lot to do with Twin Falls. The video is of Cody Canada in The Departed. Every time I hear that, I think of the guy that had the bar in the cinema up in Stanley, Commander Jack. Yeah, well, Commander, he looked like he was dead, so we called him Commander Jack and the Embalmers. No, we call him Cadaver Jack and the Embalmers. Oh, sorry. So I got sidetracked. This is a video, and in it are Muzzy Braun and his 4 boys, who are the hotshot musicians from Twin Falls, Idaho. Originally, Muzzy and his family was, that are in Austin, Texas, and they're the Mickey and the Motor Cars and Reckless Kelly. And what it shows, if you're willing to stay for 5 minutes and watch this, and I'll be quiet, is a sense of place that they have in Texas, and it revolves around music. And I've been there a few times, and I've seen it a lot. And it's really powerful, and we can do that. We already are doing that. First Fridays at Rudy's, potential for concerts there more often. The same thing here, what happens at the Slice and at the Sandwich Company, Twin Beans Coffee, and it doesn't just have to be downtown, it's just where my heart is. We can have the sense of place. And with that, I'll say thank you for coming, because this right now is one of the most powerful examples of the sense of place that I've had in my 50, 100 years here. So, if we can start this, maybe we can turn the lights on just a little bit. It's 5 minutes. Just listen, and I think we'll be done.